Well, joining us now for more on all this is Buck Sexton, former CIA counterterrorism analyst who worked with the NYPD Counterterrorism Division, including on the Times Square bombing in 2010. Buck, the high school situation is clearly disturbing, but let's start with Austin. What do you think is going on there? Targeting, obviously, the state capital of the Lone Star State.
Right now, all we know is what has been reported about where the bombings have occurred, the injuries, the fatalities, and that there is some similarity between the devices. There's connectivity between the devices. Law enforcement is working on multiple levels of the investigation right now. They're trying to do the forensics of looking at the shrapnel, the leftover, the residue from these devices, hoping maybe to get DNA hits, hoping to get something to give them a sense of who this suspect is. They're also obviously turning to the public. That's why you have a $100,000 reward, $100,000 plus, I believe now, that's out there just looking for any information, because if we look at the history of serial bombers in the past, they are very difficult to track down unless and until they make a mistake.
And they often have some type of political motive or extremist motive. You had Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber, going after people for 20 years who had some association with wood. There was the mad bomber, George Matetsky, in New York City, who was angry because he got fired from the city government. What significance do you place on that this is at Austin? You got the FedEx facility this morning, another one in San Antonio this morning, apparently sending packages through FedEx, as well as that tripwire, as well as packages on a doorstep.
Right now, we're mostly just left looking at tactics and techniques of this bomber. The target set is too varied, too broad to give us all that much information. We could certainly speculate. Is this somebody that maybe worked for the Austin state government at some point? Is it someone who's just angry at the government in general and happens to be a resident of Texas? We just do not know at this point in time. And so the motive, it would be, I think, pure speculation. As to the similarities between the devices, all we really know, based on what the authorities have told us, and keep in mind, some of this they're going to withhold for very good and obvious reasons from the public, is that the device that was triggered by individuals that had a tripwire shows a greater level of sophistication than what some of the earlier bombs that actually ended up killing people showed. So we think that we may have somebody here who spent some time practicing, who has some understanding of explosives and ordnance. Beyond that, we are hoping for a tip and a break. The FedEx facility may be exactly what we need here, that bombing, assuming it is connected here, because if he dropped it off at a package dispenser of any kind, there may have been surveillance footage or there could be other trails left behind, and that's where they'd finally get their first break.
And also, we're looking live in Austin, Texas at the FedEx facility there, told that there is a suspicious package. If that package is indeed a bomb and it is intact and it has not gone off, that's a tremendous clue for investigators.
That would be very useful. One of the big problems you have in forensic analysis of explosives is that even if the bomber, people look for fingerprints, you may get a fingerprint, but obviously most people that are going through this level of trouble probably use gloves, but they make mistakes too. But even DNA, which is much harder to account for in the construction of these kinds of devices, can get burned off when the explosion actually goes. So in this case, if we have a device intact, a suspicious package, and not what was a bomb, that may also be a major break in the case.
And is there a difference between the types of construction of bombs, let's say that you would get in Al-Qaeda, in Inspire magazine, versus a potential domestic terrorist type of manufacture or design of a bomb?
Absolutely. That's another component of this. You have the forensic DNA and fingerprint aspect of it, but also the actual construction, the specifics of how someone puts together the device could be used to give you a sense of, well, in this case, obviously pulling all these devices together, but we could see, have there been other pipe bombs found in the past that are similar? Would that point to just someone doing internet research or somebody who has a longer history of this? We just simply don't know at this point. But even small things, how do you solder together different wires, can tell you if somebody left-handed or they right-handed. So the very minute clues you can pull together from the device can also be that break that you need to finally get somebody who is such a terror right now.
And your best advice and your best guess on what type of break there can be. The bomber is probably watching and consuming the news. What would you say?
Well, there's the possibility. Law enforcement has asked, reach out. They want to hear from this person. Usually you're dealing with some kind of a malignant narcissist or a psychopath here, someone who wants their message to be known. And in that process of reaching out on the internet somehow, that could very well be a break. Of course, the bomber's going to know that, but he might be compelled, might be a compulsion. So we'll have to see.
All right, saw what happened with the manifesto and Kaczynski's brother, so we'll see. Buck, thank you so much.
Thank you.